Hey, welcome back to the Experience Share. My name is Blake, and today we're doing a deck profile and a few different gameplays with this simple Pathfinder deck that I have listed here. The whole name of the game is be able to ramp up, use the card advantage that you get from being able to use Pathfinder's ability that has tap, reveal, and play the topmost of your atlas to an adjacent void or rubble and move there. This is a great card to be able to continue to draw cards over the course of the turn. Earth and air provide a lot of mobility, a lot of removal, and a lot of big minions that can be hard to deal with. And so if you haven't checked out Drew from On The Plays channel, go check it out there. Drew and I have been playing at Reaper Games in Denton, Texas on Tuesday nights. And some of those gameplay videos are being uploaded to his channel, so go make sure you subscribe to his channel over there. But this is the deck that I'm going to be bringing this Tuesday night to play against his Entangle Mage deck. And so to go ahead and break it down, we talked a little bit about Pathfinder. Artifact-wise, we are playing the Philosopher's Stone. It's just too good whenever you're able to reduce by 2 mana. I don't typically want to be drawing a whole bunch of cores or things along those lines, and so I'm not playing the cores because I really want to be drawing impactful spells whenever I do draw a card. And so the cores didn't make their way in here. I think there's an argument that you could be playing mixes, and I think that a mix could be something to potentially try and see how that goes. But we're playing just the one Philosopher's Stone. We're playing Grim Reaper, which is incredibly good against Death Speaker, but really good against anything with minions, because not only are we playing this Grim Reaper that has lethal, and whenever it kills a minion, banish all copies of that minion from their owner's hands, cemetery, and spellbook, but we also are playing Grapple Shot. And Grapple Shot will allow us to be able to hit a minion once, removing all the copies, attacking another minion, and that can do a lot of damage, removing a lot of cards from our opponent's deck. And we're also playing the Common Sense to be able to find the Grapple Shot when we need it. Other than that, because we're trying to kind of ramp into the late game and get some big plays, we are playing 3 of the Root Spiders. It is playing just the 1 Earth Threshold, which is really helpful, as you'll see as we come into Pudge here, and you'll see maybe in some of our later gameplays where it can be tough to get the double Earth Threshold that we need to be able to cast Pudge. But Pudge is kind of a late game card because it combos really well with Earthquake, with Blink, and you can do some pretty cool things with Pudge Butcher in that regard. To help stabilize the board, help us gain life, and just a threat that has to be removed, we're playing the Dapperville Vampire, which has airborne, damage dealt by Dapperville's strikes heal you, and so same thing, great combo with a Grapple Shot and Avatar, attack and Avatar, you're gaining 8 life, dealing 8 damage, 16 point swing, really strong. We are playing 2 copies of Hounds, removes stealth from if our opponent is playing Infiltrate, but it also is able to be a very clean answer to Root Spiders, and is very hard for an opponent to be able to deal with and remove. Sky Baron, just a big ol' 6/6, causing other minions to lose airborne, really strong card. And by the time you get to 6 mana, Threshold's really not much of an issue. Highland Clansman, this is a 7/5 with charge. One thing that I learned from playing the Sorcery aggro deck is that charge is just such a powerful ability. You're pretty consistently getting to 8, 9, I was at 11 mana one game, and so you're able to play the Clansman out. If you're drawing this in the late game, it's something that comes down, hits for 5, if an opponent doesn't answer it, like it hits for a quarter of an opponent's life in one attack. So it can be really good. It's also a good finisher if somebody's on death's door, and a really strong card. Same thing, since we're going for these big late game plays, Divine Healing is a late game play. This is one that if you see in your opening hand, you're going to want to mulligan away, but gaining 7 life is just so strong. That's almost 50% of your life in one card. So really strong, really powerful card here. Blink mobility is great with Pathfinder to be able to play on some tough sites maybe to get to, help you ramp, but it's also incredibly good to be able to use your Pudge Butchers in really strong, advantageous ways, and I think you'll see the use of Blink in the gameplay videos after this. Common Sense can help you find your Blink, your Grapple Shot, the Dispel, to help get rid of auras up to 2 steps away. A couple of lightning bolts as finishers if you're not able to grapple or pudge or blink. I use Highland Clansman. Being able to common sense for a lightning bolt to finish the game, really strong. Berry for removal, grapple shot for removal and extra damage. There's not a ton of removal that you can do on water sites when you're in Earth. Chaos Twister helps us be able to attack water sites, potentially getting some chip damage. Earthquake, really strong. Rearranges sites, that way you can hit somebody with a Pudge Butcher. That's something that maybe not everybody looks for, but you can use your Earthquake aggressively to move an opponent's avatar into the line of sight of your Pudge Butcher, and that can be really strong. Craterize, dealing half of your opponent's damage, and then just for turn, whenever you have the Craterize in hand, you just draw a sight with your Pathfinder. You're able to discard it, really strong. The sights, not too much to cover here. Basically, one of everything that you can play is kind of what this looks like. Mirror Realm, if you get it on turn 1, sure, that's a feels bad, but a lot of the times that helps you fix which threshold do I need right now, and that's what makes Mirror Realm so good in this deck. But this is the simple Pathfinder deck. You're going to see me play in 3 different gameplay matches. We're going to go against Avatar of Air, we're going to go against a Seer deck, as well as an Enchantress. So stay tuned to see how those games go. And then also don't forget to check out Drew's channel from On The Play, and I'll link his video in the description below. But thank you all so much. Let's get into the gameplay video. Alright, so for the gameplay video here, we are starting off this simple Pathfinder deck, going against an Avatar of Air. Seeing Philosopher's Stone in the opening hand, really strong. Pudge Butcher, Grapple Shot, that can be a good combo. And let's see, our opponent here goes in for the Ruins, and then go ahead and plays the 1/2, blanking on the beast name right now. Snow Leopard, I think is what it is, but Observatory here, Root Spider, and what you'll see, the way that I sort this is, I probably should have put Roots on top, because stack it in the way that you're going to be able to play it. I'm not going to be able to play a 4 before I can play a 3, and so I should have went 3, 4, 5 there on that Observatory. So we are needing some Earth Threshold. That is what we're hoping for. Vantage Hills. And so one thing you'll notice here is I go to the right, and the reason I'm going to the right here is because I don't want to give him a free 2 damage from the Snow Leopards here. So going to the right guarantees me to gain basically 2 life by not having to deal or worry about the Snow Leopard attack. And opponent passes over to us. We're drawing a Root Spider here, and so awesome. Love the Aqueduct, because that's going to let us be able to play out our Pudge Butcher, but it means we also can't summon the Root Spider there. That's originally one thing. I was like, you cast Root Spider. I can't. But then I remember our Philosopher's Stone here, and so now we get Pudge Butcher out, and this puts us in a bit of a unique position. This is not a great spot for Pudge Butcher, because he's able to just, if I play a site, then I'd be pudging my own avatar, which is fine. I can move my avatar back and then start placing sites down on site 4, and so there's mobility for the avatar there, but that might not be the best use for it. So Wind Blast coming out is going to move my Pudge Butcher over, and our opponent here is just trying to decide, hey, should I have played Wind Blast first, or should I have played the Snow Leopard first? And decides that, yeah, you know what, I should have go ahead, played the site, then Wind Blasted, move the Snow Leopard over. So Pudge, not in the best spot here. Wind Sylph, giving our opponent here a little bit of extra mobility. Alright, and then he comes in and attacks for 2. We tap, we get Rift Valley. Not much that we can do with a Rift Valley in this case. We can go ahead and Pudge, get rid of that Snow Leopard. No more taking 2 damage here. And we have a free Spider that we can play. And That'll prevent any sort of aggression coming down onto our Pathfinder. Alright, Mirage being able to bounce. And one thing I think is important to note here is that he still is able to maintain and get the mana for this turn from playing the Mirage, who he is at 4 here. Highland Clansman off the top. It's going to be a little bit till we get there. We are able to play the Pillar, banishing the Snow Leopards, gaining 1 life. And at first I'm thinking, hey, I can move my roots under the Free City. Realizing Free City can attack from the subsurface. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to move him there. So trying to see what I can do with my Pudge. I can Earthquake, and that would have been an interesting play there. Would have been to go ahead and aggressively Earthquake, pulling the Avatar of Earth Air down to the Pudge Butcher. But it's going to work out in my favor that I didn't think through that line right then. Because now I get to do a really strong play here and get to go ahead and pull off an Earthquake. And trying to see, hey, is there a way that I can Pudge and do the Earthquake? And so we're going to Earthquake, move the Rift Valley, and then it's going to go ahead, get rid of the Dapperville Vampire, the Wind Sylph, moves that Avatar of Air closer to us, or closer to me. And then because of the Philosopher's Stone, I can pay 2 here and get a Common Sense for a blink. Now, the right play here is to blink north, go up on the aqueduct. But I'm pretty sure I blink over to the observatory. And the reason why that matters is because then, okay, good, I did go to the aqueduct. You don't want to put an Avatar of Air on an air site because then it can push and walk away. So I'm trying to see, like, what do I want to do with my Root Spider here? And this was kind of deciding, do I go down back towards my own sites, or do I start progressing the board forward, going closer to our opponent's sites? And so we decided to leave the Root Spider there so we can push our Pathfinder up over to the site above us, north of us. Opponent needing to think through. Now they can fly over or walk over to the tower and then push themselves over to the Free City. If they do that, we do have the blink. And right now we have blink, grapple shot in hand, and so that's kind of almost a guaranteed 10 damage. Our opponent is currently at 4 mana here. And so, like, Rolling Boulder, that's not going to get rid of the Pudge Butcher. Like, Pudge is just going to be really hard for this Avatar of Air deck to be able to remove. Maybe what they could do would be play Chaos Twister. But we can see the Imperial Road coming down. Wasn't able to place it on that site right there because only my site's surrounded. So Dapperville coming down here. Now that caused him to have to tap to be able to play a site. And so he's trying to figure out the best place where he's going to be able to go here. And you know what I was thinking is that I really don't want my opponent to be able to gain a whole bunch of life this turn. And so my thoughts are, how do I prevent as much life gain as possible here? And so right here, I do go ahead and continue to push my Pathfinder up. As I'm pushing Pathfinder up, maybe it makes sense to go to the bottom, because our opponent could draw a sight, cut us off. But with the Philosopher's Stone, really 7 is going to give us everything that we need. We go ahead and blink. The reason for the blink is because that way, when we shoot the projectile, we don't double hit the Avatar. But we want to go ahead and get rid of this Dapperville. So we're going to... it was a fight. If I would have pudged Dapperville, they would have gained 4 life. And so by here, using the grapple shot, we go ahead and finish off the Dapperville. Then we go ahead and use the pudge ability to pull Avatar of Air over. Now, Avatar of Air is on an air site now, and that's going to be harder for us to be able to deal with. Our opponent, really nice play here, is able to push my Pudge Butcher through the Wall of Fire and then attack it on the Free City to go ahead and get rid of the Pudge Butcher. And as you might be able to see from what we have in the hand, we have a really strong play here. We're going to be able to draw a sight per turn, and that's going to be the telltale sign that we have a crater eye going to come down. The best part about that blink play is that it actually means that my opponent is on their own air sight. And so when this crater eye comes down right here, it's going to actually destroy one of their sides, putting them at 3. And here I might as well. I could have created the foot soldier. Crater eyes would have killed the foot soldier either way, and so it didn't really matter if I paid the 1 for the foot soldier or not. But we're gonna go ahead and crater eyes, discard the holy city, deal 10, put our opponent on death's door, get rid of the wind self, get rid of our little foot soldiers, destroy their tower, and now our opponent's down to 4 sights, has a wall of fire, and then we have the Highland Clansmen that can come down with charge to be able to finish off an attack. At this point, we're moving the root spider over, so that way it's in line of sight of the Avatar of Air, and that way we could use a grapple shot if we drop deck or we drew something along those lines. Shifting sands coming down from our opponent. And our opponent just has an orb, so is not quite able to cast anything that's going to be able to stop them from this Highland Clansman coming down with charge and being able to take out the Avatar of Air. So that's going to wrap it up here for game 1. Stick around for game 2 as we go against the Seer deck. Alright, going into game 2, playing against Seer, and so we see Pudge. We go ahead and keep a Pudge. We put a spider down below. Most Seer decks are control decks, and so I want something a little bit more aggressive, and that's where the bottoming of the spider comes from. And then we get a little bit of Scrybug action, and we get Root Spider and another Pudge Butcher in our hand. So not feeling too great about this opening hand right here. We'll have to see how the sights unfold for us. But opponent looks like to be playing some sort of Voidwalk Seer deck. Comes down with the mix. We go Bedrock, so getting the double Earth threshold here is huge. That's going to enable us to be able to play out our Pudge Butchers here on curve. And we draw the third Pudge Butcher, which that always feels good. 3 Pudge Butchers in hand. That's probably more Pudges than I want to deal with. And but I think that Pudge, really strong card. That lack their mobility can make it tough, and it kind of just dies to removal. That's one of the challenges here with Pudge Butcher. Opponent playing a sight right down, cracks the mix. That means they have 5 mana for the turn. Hippogriffs coming down here, hitting me for 3 on this turn 2 for them. So really strong play, but turns out maybe it's less of a controlling deck than I thought. And I feel pretty happy that we had the Root Spider in hand. Blink, that's going to be incredibly strong with our Pudge Butcher. And so we go ahead, bury down the Root Spider. And that's going to stop the Hippogriffs for at least a turn or so. Alright, Pristine Paradise. So opponent has at least 1 threshold for everything now. Hippogriffs aren't going to be able to really do much here. With the Root Spider, and that's just, Root Spider is such an incredibly strong defensive tool. Our opponent was mentioning how they forgot to scry, and so I give them the green light to go ahead and scry now. Alright, and they pass over to us, and so we can tap, grab a Simple Village. We do not have the mana available to be able to get the Foot Soldier, so I'm trying to decide where is the best place to place this Pudge. And we go ahead and decide right here on our home site is where we're going to be able to place it. I think it could have gone into the root spider. I think that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. The thing I was worried about would be some sort of berry. I don't have a way to stop a berry or anything along those lines. Opponent was thinking about playing a leap attack here, but then because it says it has to take a step and it's disabled because of the root spider, it's not able to take that step there, unfortunately. And so instead, they decided to go ahead and use it on their seer to get it out of the path of the Pudge Butcher. So we have the Rift Valley here, and we decided to just go ahead and leave it as is. We go ahead and move over the root spider, drop down another Pudge, and place that right in front of our opponent's seer. And that's going to be a lot of pressure that they have to deal with. And we can do a little bit of Pudge tag. If one Pudge is able to see the seer, and we can Pudge it, hit it for 5, Pudge it with the other one, and kind of start dragging this seer around. And you can just see the advantage of Pathfinder here. Our opponent has 1 sight, 1 spell in hand. We have 4 spells. That's just because with Pathfinder, you get to just draw a spell every single turn. We get the windmill. We're able to come down. Our opponent has their paradise is turned off because of the seer being on it. It's not empty. So originally I was thinking I was going to have to double blink here, but as I common sense for the second blink, I realized that I can blink over to our opponent's site right there, and we can go ahead, Pudge over, bring them down, and then Pudge them again, bring seer all the way down to us, put our opponent down to 10, we're at 17, we go ahead and walk. And the reason I'm walking here is, in theory, if my opponent's trying to play some sort of a aggressive strategy, placing it either on the tower or on the ruin is going to be their best play. And so having a spider right next to it where I can move it to either way seemed like the best possibility for me. And this is the point where after talking to our opponent here, they decided, hey, you know what, let's go ahead, just pick this up, and let's just go to game 3. The whole point of me wanting to show this game was because you're able to see the Pathfinder card advantage, as well as being able to see the power of Blink, and how Blink with Pudge Butcher can be a really strong combination into being able to pull an opponent around, deal a lot of damage quick. And so for game 3 here, we're going to be doing Pathfinder versus Enchantress. Opening hand, we want more aggressive cards. We're going to put the defensive cards below. And Pudge Butchers are just loving us this game. Blink, a couple of Pudges in hand. I feel pretty good about this spot. Especially with Enchantress being a little bit slower, Pudge can be able to put a lot of pressure on quickly, assuming that we're able to get our double Earth threshold. And you can see I learned my lesson on this one where I went 3, 5, and 6 because of the order that I'm going to be able to play them in. Another early pillar. Not going to be able to do much here. Opponent playing the kind of passive floodplain route. And so one thing, if you're playing against Pathfinder, you have to be careful taking this passive line here, because I get to just encroach in on our opponent's territory pretty quickly here, and unlocking a lot of the board to be pretty easy sites for Pathfinder to be able to go down. And so we're going to put a spider under our Pathfinder to give us as much space as possible. It also, that's a big site for where auras want to be. And so that'll turn off a lot of our opponent's auras if they animate it under the root spider. Alright, ruins coming down for our opponent, and a princess. And I would assume it gets a Philosopher's Stone. I actually don't know. Okay, it's going for a trinket. Interesting. So trinket will enables the Enchantress player to be able to animate their aura for the most part every turn. It's just an easy 1 mana spell. Watchtower coming down now, and you'll see that we have just a single Earth threshold. No Pudge Butcher coming down, so we just have to pass. And that could be one of the awkward things with Pathfinder, is that you are not guaranteed to have the sites that you need. And so really, if you need a double threshold, you might be waiting until turn 6 plus. Sometimes it can just, that's how the cards can fall. So maybe as additional sites come out, I would really hope that I can do a monocolor Pathfinder deck in the future after Arthurian Legends comes out. But this is just one of the challenges of Pathfinder, is sometimes you don't get the sites, they don't flip the way that you want. Wildfire coming down for our opponent. And so it's not animated right now, so it has all of its text box still. And so it's going to have to move at the end of turn here. And so with Wildfire moving, we draw probably the best site possible in this scenario for not being an Earth site. I would have loved an Earth site, but we flip over here to Cloud City. And with Cloud City, what we're able to do is actually fly over here to site, it was at 16? And at site 16, well, that means the Wildfire only has one place to go, and that's back to where it came from, which means we're going to instantly dispel this Wildfire. That feels pretty strong here for us. Now that leaves where our opponent can play a site on 17, and if they do that, that's fine. It puts us maybe behind a little bit, because it's just one less mana that we're going to be able to get per turn, but we have an easy path to 10 mana this turn. Okay, so we're still missing the double Earth thresholds. We can't use Earthquake, and Earthquake is not going to be a great piece of removal for this, because if any of it is on the water, it's not able to be buried or submerged. And there's quite a few water sites over there. And so one thing that's good with Cloud City is that we can go ahead and move it before we play our site. And so that goes ahead and guarantees us 17 and 16. And right now I'm trying to think, is there a way that I can avoid and cancel the Wildfire? But there's not. Even if I go to site 11, then our opponent would be able to just go straight towards us with the Wildfire. And of course, guess what we get? A tower, so no double Earth threshold for us, but we are able to rush out and play down a Sky Baron, which is going to make animating that Wildfire really tough. And that's one of the strengths of this simple Pathfinder deck, is that it's just playing big minions that you have to be able to answer. And you can only play 3, or most decks are playing, 3 or so berries. The max that you can play is 4. When you're playing threat after threat after threat, that can be a lot for somebody to be able to deal with. Opponent, really nice play. Imperial Road, so they're able to play a second site, and of course, being Pathfinder, I don't have any sites in my hand, and so we are going to lose out on a potential site placement there for us. And that raises an interesting question. If you were in a best of 3 and you knew that your opponent had Imperial Road, do you ever draw the site just to hold it, just so you don't fall that behind? It's an interesting question. I think in general, normally what I would be doing is just drawing the sites. Or not drawing the sites, drawing spells. But then just assume that I get the card advantage, and that's better than the mana advantage. But who knows? Opponent, really nice play. Self-same Simulacrum comes down, able to copy the Sky Baron here, and then our opponent's just trying to debate, hey, should I animate my Wildfire, should I not? They go ahead and make the decision that they should not animate the Wildfire, because they wouldn't have a way to respond to the Sky Baron coming down and attacking it. And so they go ahead and make the decision not to animate here. And they have 3 mana left. And then they just go ahead and pass turn. So end of turn, Wildfire moves. We draw a card, Divine Healing. Not great here. At least we have the threshold needed to be able to cast it once we get to that point. Rift Valley coming down here. And so with this, that puts us at 7 mana. And I make the decision here of like, hey, I have more cards in hand, and so if I'm one for wanting these trades, then I'm actually going to be in a good spot. And so I go ahead, attack to remove the Sky Barons, play Sky Baron Part 2, and this covers side 11. If our opponent does animate here and tries to attack, we have the Sky Baron there ready to go on defense. Alright, and our opponent plays Infiltrate, but thanks to the Watchtower, it's not going to do anything other than tap it, but the Backstab is going to come in here. 2 damage, move to an adjacent location, strike a tapped minion there, so that'll strike the Sky Barons, and then our opponent here goes ahead, attacks again, trading the Wildfire for the Sky Baron. And so they had to trade the Backstab and the Wildfire for just the singular Sky Baron. So I feel like that's a pretty good trade for us. Alright, so we come down, we get the Windmill. Everything's online now. We have Double Blink, we have Pudge Butcher. That's going to be a really tough combination for our opponent to be able to have to deal with. So we play a Pudge Butcher on site 3. As well as site 8. All right. And here we're looking like we're going to have a pretty successful double Pudge Butcher turn here. The other thing that we can do is, we can't really use Earthquake. We use Earthquake. We could use it to move the sites around, but we're not going to be able to submerge or do anything there. And so Earthquake could have been an interesting play, but then we'd still have the issue with the princess being in the way of the projectile. And our opponent here coming down is able to attack for 2 because of the immobility. We're not able to do anything to respond to our opponent. And then it looks like those attacks just end up not doing much because we're able to get Holy Ground, go ahead and gain 3 life. And then I decided that I think site 7? Site 7 might be a better place for us to be. So we are able to blink over our spider underground, come up, strike the princess, and then we're able to use a second copy of Blink, go from site 3 to site 9, tapping to pull Enchantress, strike for 5, striking for another 5, bring our opponent down to 10. We have 5 mana left, and we're able to drop down the Dapperville Vampire. That's just going to increase our scope of influence, controlling the amount of distance that we're able to cover. Atlantean Fate would be a really strong card here for our opponent if they were able to drop that. That could be something that could try to get them back into the game here. But even if they did use the Atlantean Fate, we have the Highland Clansman in hand. And that being able to deal, 7 damage with charge right away, that's going to be a lot. Chain to Prometheus coming down, which means that one of our Pudge Butchers are going to be tapped every single turn. So Chain comes down, we tap the Pudge Butcher under the Enchantress, draw a spell, able to move around a little bit. We're going to Pudge the Enchantress over, and then we're able to attack for 2 and 4, and that's going to be 11 in total, and it's going to be able to finish off our opponent, putting them to death's door. Same thing, Atlantean Fate, really strong card here, except for the fact that one Pudge Butcher is on a basic, and that would not be able to go drown unless they had a floodplain and also the Atlantean Fate. Opponent here, leap attack, being able to try to how do I stay alive and run away? But with Dapperville having flying, we have blinks, we have the 7/5 with haste, Trinket coming down, hitting us for 2 damage, taking us down to 17, and we are able to come in and just attack with the Dapperville. But thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you like this simple Pathfinder deck. I'll put the deck link into the description below. Don't forget to check out Drew's channel from On The Play. Give me a like, a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Take care.